and over here as well in 3, 2, 1, boom. Hello ladies and gents, welcome to another repair video. Today we're going to be looking at this PlayStation 4 which has been sent in, and this is the PS4 original, and apparently this will work in low resolution mode, so 640 by 480, but as soon as it switches to 720 or 1080p it won't display on the TV. So we're going to take a look. I've got a feeling I know what's wrong with it, but hopefully we can figure it out, and hopefully I can explain to you guys along the way my thought process in diagnosing this issue. So no display or low resolution only mode on the PlayStation 4 is fairly common, and it's usually a result of the HDMI IC not working properly. So it will work to a certain extent, but it can't quite generate enough power to display in a higher resolution. So generally the way to fix this is to simply replace the HDMI chip. That's on this one, that is the MN8647-1A. It's a Panasonic HDMI encoder, and basically what that's responsible for is taking the audio and video signals from the APU, processing them, and then sending them out to the HDMI. So usually when that chip goes bad, it's for one of a few reasons. Number one is people tend to move these things around the house. They'll take them over to a friend's house, they'll keep unplugging and replugging the HDMI in as they're switching between sources. So for example, between a DVR or another console or something like that. And the HDMI port takes a lot of stick. So basically, over time, it generates wear on the HDMI port. That in turn generates wear on the HDMI encoder, and therefore you end up with no display or a low resolution display. So that's one of the reasons. The other reason could be something to do with the weather. If you get a power surge down the HDMI circuit, you can get thunder and lightning strikes where you basically get a little surge through the TV and it will pass through the TV because electricity needs a place to escape, and it's always going to look for the easiest and lowest impedance path to escape. And in most cases that's going to be through the HDMI circuit because it's got a low impedance path straight through to the console. So weather can cause it as well, or just a general power surge, some sort of fault with the electrics in the home, or a fault with the TV itself causes a power surge, sending down the HDMI cable because again, low impedance line, and therefore you end up with damage to the HDMI circuit. But we're going to take a look, we're going to try and find out what's going on, and hopefully we're going to get this thing fixed. But before you do that, I'm not going to touch this until you hit subscribe. I've got it all night. I can wait here until you hit subscribe. I'm just kidding. Thanks for subscribing. Let's get to this repair, shall we? Alrighty, so you can see that this console here hasn't really been kept in very good condition. It's not, you know, it's pretty dirty. Looks like someone's been using it as a storage unit for, well, I don't even know what. I don't even want to know what, to be honest. And looking at this HDMI port, this has been changed before. That is not straight. As you can see there, we've definitely got kind of an angle on the HDMI port. It's kind of like pushed downways sort of thing, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'm going to say that this is likely a prior repair where someone's damaged the HDMI port and they've had it replaced, probably by a shop or a technician who can't really do micro soldering. And now I'm going to be clear here, I am not saying that to slag anyone off. Not everyone can do micro soldering. It is not an easy job. You know, with practice it gets easy, but it's not an easy job to learn, and not everyone can do it. So I'm not saying that to slag anyone off. I'm saying it because that is based on my experience. Someone who can do a HDMI port but can't do a chip. You know, it's fairly common. I see it all the time. It's, like I said, it's not an easy job to learn, and you know, I've got no qualms with people who can do HDMI ports and not micro soldering. CEX, one of the biggest franchises in the UK for computer equipment, can't do chips. And I see it all the time where a console gets sent back from somewhere like CEX because they deem it as unfixable, just because they're not capable or they don't have the tools or experience to change the chip, but they do offer HDMI port repairs. So I'm not saying this has come from CEX, I'm just saying, you know, that is one example. But basically that's what this looks like to me. It looks like it's had a replacement port at least at some point in the past, so that's probably put strain on the HDMI encoder on its own. Another thing which I'm noticing is these ports here are quite dusty, which means we've probably got a fair bit of dust build-up in the console itself. So one of the problems with dust build-up is, yes, it can generate a little bit of static, but the main issue with dust build-up is heat. So let's say, for example, you get a console that starts to overheat and you start to get thermal build-up inside the console. Now, the reason that's a problem isn't just because it puts strain on things like the APU, but every other component on the motherboard has also got a maximum operating temperature. A lot of components, the operating temperature is around about 105 degrees Celsius, but that doesn't mean that you can run it at a continuous 90 degrees Celsius without there being some sort of consequences. So what I tend to find a lot of the time when we get HDMI display issues when it's not the port and the chip is at fault, what I tend to find is that the console oftentimes is fairly dusty inside, and I've put it down to heat build-up over time and that basically causing degradation of the chip. That's pretty much the only way I can explain it, and the only way that I can possibly link the two issues. So yeah, a word of advice, just get your console serviced on a regular basis. Every 12 months should do it, but yeah, that's another thing. So anyway, with that being said, let's see what's going on with this and then we'll try and get it repaired. Okay, so I'm going to take a HDMI cable here. That doesn't lock in properly, which means that these catches inside the port might be a little bit damaged, because that doesn't quite lock in as it should. Not really. I mean, it's locking in, but it's not locking in great. I've actually got a good example here. So on the last video I've just filmed about an hour ago, I replaced this HDMI port. And this was supposed to be a warranty job, and it turned out the customer damaged the HDMI port. But one of the issues with this, and one of the reasons that it wasn't displaying, is because the port is split. But you can see here that we've got some tabs. Let me zoom in on that. So you can see here that we've got some tabs on the port itself, these two tabs here. Basically, that is designed to lock into the cable. So you can see we've got the other side of these, we've got the female end there, and then these are technically the male end because the tabs stick into the port. So basically, when we get damage to the port or when we get damage to the tabs, it won't lock in properly. So if I just show you this as an example, and you should be able to see this pretty well. Let me see how far I can get zoomed in here. So let's just show you an example of this. So you see here where the tabs are supposed to line up with the port. That's on an angle right now to get that to line up. You can see there that doesn't quite line up, but it should. It should line up, and that's what causes it to lock in. It's a feature on HDMI which allows the port to stay in there securely and not cause any damage to the HDMI circuit. So when these become damaged and they don't line up properly, I'm going to try and straighten this. It's probably not going to be possible. I haven't really got any mold grips or anything. Let me get a brand new port. Let me get one for a PS4 actually. So these here are V2 ports. These are high quality ports. These are not the cheap, 30 pence per port. So these are fairly high quality ports, and well, actually they're not. Well, they are, but they're not. These have actually got two catches. They've got one on this side, but they've got one on this side as well, and this is where it's supposed to meet up with the port. So, whoops, that's gone. So you see how that locked in then? So that's supposed to lock in. These tabs are supposed to basically lock into the port, like that. It's just clicked in. And basically, that is what keeps it secure. So if we've got damage here, if these tabs are bent in any way, if they've been worn down, things like that, that can cause the port to become loose over time. And if you've got a loose port over time, it's going to keep moving around with vibrations and things like that, and that's going to put excess wear on the HDMI encoder as well. So that is another issue. But anyway, with that being said, let's just pop this in here. And let's get some port porn here. There There we go. Alright, let's hook up a power cable. Let's turn her on. There we go. And I'm going to turn my TV on. And this is the best display that I can give you because I don't have a capture card set up for consoles at the minute. And I'm too lazy to do it. So never mind. We definitely have no display. So we've got a white light on the console. As you'll see there, solid white light. So that is actually booting up. But we've got no display on the TV. And that's definitely on the right HDMI input source. Let's just give this a little bit of a wiggle. So I'm giving the cable a wiggle test. Just see if it wants to display. Oh, there you go. Did you see that? That is picking up. So did you see that notification come through then on the TV? So that it detected a HDMI source. I don't think this port is soldered correctly. So if I unplug that, let's just plug it back in again. Yeah, that is picking up. It's not displaying, but it's picking up, which means something is working. But it's not even registering as PlayStation 4. It should be. So that's telling me that we've probably got an issue with the HDMI port. So let's get it apart. So we've probably got an issue with the HDMI port, but that being said, apparently this will work in low resolution. So one thing that a few people don't know, I'll say a few people, one thing that most people don't know is the HDMI port, even though there's 19 pins, it doesn't even use all of those to make a contact or to make connection. As far as I'm aware, it will only use 3 of the differential pair data lines to make a good contact and to actually display a picture. And the 4th pair is used for something else. I don't actually remember what, but the 4th pair is used for something else. So the way that the HDMI port is laid out, you've got 19 pins. 12 of those pins are differential pairs, and that basically carries the data lines. You've got a positive data line, a negative data line, and in between you've got a ground point. So it's just extra ground points. I don't know exactly what they're used for, but it does work without those ground points. But then you've got other things like HDMI detect, hot plug detect, 5-volt output and things like that. So it will only use 3 of the 4 data lines, and then the 4th one is used for something else as far as I'm aware. And basically, if we've got a contact issue on even one of those pins on those 3 sets of data lines, those 3 differential pairs, that could cause low res issues. One thing I am noticing with this one though, it is very dusty. Like, I mean, really badly dusty. Take a look at this side. That is clogged up pretty badly. There is nowhere for that heat to escape from. Well, there is now, but there wasn't. Dinner is served, ladies and gents. Please don't let your console get this bad. Alright, well, like I said, this could have an issue with heat buildup, and that could have degraded the chip over time. So we could very well be dealing with a HDMI encoder issue here, but we do need to inspect the entire circuit and just make sure that everything else is good before we sit there putting off a 20+ pound chip, because the HDMI encoders are not cheap. You've heard the term cheap as chips? Well, in this case, it's about as cheap as 10 chips, because they're over £20 to buy. But never mind, you can buy them. You can buy them from AliExpress, eBay, even Amazon, in fact. You know, you can buy them from Amazon. They're more expensive on Amazon, though. Don't buy them from Amazon. Buy them from eBay or AliExpress and you'll get a fairly good deal. Right, well, you're losing your stickers. Sorry. Can't get into it without doing that. Well, I could just yeah, I could do that, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to waste my time. So those stickers can come off. You'll have to buy some more. Oh well. can't get into the console without those stickers. I know what they've done that for. Someone keeps moving this around and they don't want this door to keep falling off. That's exactly what's happened here, I reckon. They keep moving it around from room to room. I mean, I dropped one earlier. Well, I nearly dropped one, I should say. I didn't drop one. I nearly dropped one. I caught it and cut my finger doing it. These come off really easily. Glue the damn thing on. Don't put stickers on your console. It makes it look ugly. So while I'm doing this, I mean, it doesn't take long to disassemble these things anyway, but while I'm doing this, I want to give a shout out to a couple of friends of mine who have YouTube channels. So, the first person that I want to give a shout out to is Wayne from Wayne's Noob Repairs UK. He's learning this sort of stuff, but what he's doing is he's documenting his journey along the way. And I think if you're watching my videos to learn, then, you know, you might find some use out of his videos, because it'll show that it's not all peaches and rainbows, and that it's a difficult time for all of us when we first start to learn. And yes, I may make it look easy at times, but he doesn't, and that's the point. That is the point, because he shows exactly how difficult it is to get started, and he just keeps chucking along anyway. And that's what I like about him, because he just carries on. Doesn't matter how many times he has a difficult time with it, you know, he just carries on. He just continues to learn, and honestly, he's a great guy, and I highly recommend checking out his channel. And the second person is someone who probably should get a few more subs than he's actually got. So, Computer Booter is a very, very, very nice guy. Really, really friendly, super down to earth, super chilled. Pretty funny, keeps setting boards on fire. But, no, Computer Booter is based in the US, and like I said, he's a great guy, and he deserves way more subs than he's actually got. And I think he was on about 600 last time I actually looked at his sub count, but he deserves way more. He knows his stuff, you know, he's a nice guy, and he'll help you out if you can. So I highly recommend checking him out. There'll be links to both of those channels in the video description, so really do recommend checking them out, and I'm sure they would appreciate it as well. So this is the second revision of PlayStation 4 Original. Okay, we definitely have a replacement port on here, and it is definitely not soldered on right. However, it is pretty solid. It is on there pretty solid, but yeah, either someone is not very good at soldering a HDMI port and they've passed it off as good, or it's been damaged. So let's pop under the microscope and take a look at what we're dealing with, shall we? Yeah, I think that's going to have to be replaced. Doesn't look great, does it? I don't think I can comfortably leave that like that, to be honest. Even if it's not related to the repair or to the issue it's facing. Oh dear. Oh dear, well, yeah, well, okay, that would explain it. I've seen enough. Oh dearie me, why do I do this sort of stuff to myself? Alright. So, yeah, I didn't confirm that it was only working in low resolution mode. I didn't actually see it. All I saw was no display, and that is all I need to see. This is not good. I probably shouldn't laugh, but it's pretty funny. Okay, so I've got the motherboard over the edge of the table here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set my hot air at 480 degrees Celsius. Let's just straighten that up. I'm going to set my hot air at 480 degrees Celsius, and I'm going to remove this port. I've got 40% airflow, and I'm just going to heat it up until it drops out. No need to really worry about damaging pads, because most of them are not soldered, and that is not the result of damage. That's the result of incorrect soldering. So this is a V2 port, and quite clearly it's been changed before, and this is probably how it's been left on by whoever changed it last. And it's important to remember as well, just because it looks soldered, it doesn't mean it actually is. Okay, that is loose, but I'm not moving it yet. Give it another 10 seconds. And then I'll move it. Good. Okay, but I'm not going to remove the heat off the board yet because I want to clean out these ground holes. So I'm just using a solder sucker. A cheap £3 eBay special that I've had for about 11 years now. Okay, I'm going to switch to my right hand for the sucker. I realise I'm out of view there. Whoops, I slipped a bit. In the words of Bruce Almighty, beautiful. I'm going to use a different method for this port. Rather than soldering it manually, I'm going to use the drop method. So I'll add some flux there, and I'm going to add some leaded solder to the mix. I'm assuming it's already leaded solder, but I could be wrong. Not everybody uses leaded solder. Some shops do still use lead free. Or I say still. It never used to be lead free. Most people used to use leaded. Let's just add some solder to the iron. And then I'm just going to tin these pads. There we go. Perfect. And then I'm going to actually tin the ground holes as well. And there's a reason for that. And that's because I'm using the drop method for this one. Just to show you a different way of doing it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my hot air and I'm going to heat up the motherboard until the ground holes start to melt. And then I'm going to drop the port straight on. And it's going to be good. So the first thing I do is just take my brand new port inside the tweezers. So I'll just hold it with the tweezers like that. And then I'll just heat up. I can heat up from underneath or I can heat up from above. I'm going to choose the underneath method. And you'll see the flux is going to start to melt. And you'll know when the ground legs are ready to have the port dropped into. Basically what's going to happen is when the ground legs are ready, the solder should drop a little bit. There you go, that was perfect timing. And over here as well, in 3, 2, 1, boom. Let's drop that on there. Move the heat away. And voila. Wait for that to settle down. And move the tweezers out of the way. Beautiful. Nice and simple. And as you can see, I'm using the same port that was used before, but this time it's not slanted. So it's nice and straight now. So just zooming in on this, I've got a feeling these are not fully soldered. They could be, but one rule I've got, and one thing I advise for everyone, check your work. Like that look, see? Looked soldered, but it's not. And that's all I need to see, is one pin not soldered. See one pin not soldered? Resolder every joint. If you've got one pin that's not soldered, then yeah, just resolder it all. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal to resolder each pin. Honestly. I'm not just saying that, I'm being deadly sincere. If you need to solder one pin, you may as well do them all. Alright, so what I'm going to do is just take my soldering iron with some solder pre-applied. If I'd have tinned these legs on the port, then they probably would have all ended up nice and solid, but I like to touch them up anyway just to make sure that we've got a nice contact. So all I'm going to do, this little blob of solder I've just dropped on there, I'm just going to drag that from end to end. I'm just going to add some more solder to these ground legs. Alright, so I'm not going for perfection on this particular run. The reason for that is because I do want to use a bit of hot air in conjunction with the soldering iron. You'll have to excuse the lighting. Unfortunately, the auto white balance of the light is being, knocked through a hoop because it's reflecting off the shield for the HDMI encoder. Alright, so just use a bit of warm air there with it. That's going to allow gravity to do its thing and sort it out. Let's clean the back. Okay, I'm not happy with that joint. Not happy with that joint. I'm a bit happier now. There might be a bit of damage to that pad, causing it to take a little bit more solder. Maybe. Yeah, it should be fine. The joints are shiny. We've got some nice solder joints on it, so I'm fine with it. Well, to an extent. I like them to look nicer than that, but we at least try and touch it up and clean it up some. Okay. Final step before the test is I'm just going to check the HDMI circuit for any more issues. So, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check the HDMI port for any kind of shorts. So we're in continuity mode, and I'm going to check each pin against the one next to it. It's quite difficult to see pin 19. Okay, just make sure we had a beep there. So we don't want to see a beep in this mode, or rather while we're doing this. Apart from that one where I touched the pins together, the probes together. Well, that's fine. So what I'm doing here is just checking and making sure that we've got no bridges from one pin to the next. If we have, it'll beep. You'll hear it beep. Sometimes that's just where I kind of slip with the probes. I'm not worried about it when that happens. But that's good. The next check I want to do is to make sure that we've got no short to ground on any of the other pins. So if I touch this here, we've got a short there because I'm touching ground. So we don't want to see a short on these data lines. So these are the data lines I was talking about. These differential pairs. Whoops. And we've got no short. Pin 13. 14 is a no connect anyway. So 15, 16, 18 and 19. No shorts to ground. Perfect. Let's check these differential pairs from one to the other. So positive to negative. We don't want to see a short. Good. Good. Whoops. Good. And ignore that beeping. Shut up, multimeter. Good. Okay. That's all good. Everything's fine there. Next, I'm going to go into diode mode, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to check for a diode reading on the differential pairs. And the reason for that is because that's going to tell me if we've got any blown filters without having to remove that shield that's on the other side. So I want to see a diode reading here, and we get 0.493 on that one, which means that all of these should pretty much match. Yep. If we get open line, then we've got a blown filter. Okay, we're good there. Good there. Good. 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 Okay. So differential pairs all appear fine. Let's check pin number 13. We get 0.566, that's good. 14 is open line, so we ignore that. 15 we get 0.56, was it 563, yeah. 16 we get 563, perfect. 17 is ground. 18 652, that's 0.652. And 19 is 0.587. Okay, so because I'm getting a diode reading on pin number 18, that means that this fuse here, this resettable fuse, is going to be good, because the only thing that's in line with pin 18 before the fuse is the trace in the middle. There's nothing there. It goes directly from the fuse to pin 18. So because we're getting a diode reading, that means we are going to be getting continuity on this fuse. And as you can hear there, we get continuity. The rest of the HDMI circuit is checking out fine. So if we still don't get any display, or if it still doesn't work in high definition, 1080p or 720p, then we're going to have a bad encoder. Let's give it a test. Before I do anything, I am going to clean out the system, because that's got to be done either way at the end of the job. So I'm going to get rid of the thermal paste that the last technician doesn't appear to have changed. So I'll do that, and then what I'm also going to do, well, I'll put some fresh thermal paste on first, enough that Steve from Tronics Fix will be proud. The perfect amount of thermal paste, of course. And then I'm just going to clean this out. So I'm going to strip it down, I'm going to get rid of all of the dust and get it ready for reassembly. And just like that, by the power of editing in the state of YouTube, I now pronounce you clean and clear. You may take the motherboard. Thank you. Everyone cheer and walk them down the aisle. Oh man, it's too late at night. It really is too late. Oh, I've lost my mind. There we go. Never mind. Alright, it probably wasn't that funny. Anyway, let's hope that this works. No, don't do this to me. I've dropped the... Yeah, come on. You can do it. Consummate the marriage. Alright, anyway. Yeah, it probably... I know. I'm probably not that funny. I get it, it's fine. Alright. Enough messing around. Let's see if this wants to work. So that's all we need for testing. But one thing I do want to do, apart from push down the back, because I forgot to do that. One thing I do want to do is just clean out the HDMI port and look how much better that port looks compared to how it looked before. Okie dokie. I might as well do that while I'm there. Yeah, buddy. Alright. So, just clean out the HDMI port itself, because we've been using flux on it. So I always clean that out. Then if I just take my isopropyl alcohol and just wash my HDMI cable in it as well. Remember, isopropyl alcohol is non-conductive and it's not going to hurt anything by using it. So you may as well use it and just basically give your port a clean, give your cable a clean, and then you know you've got no unknown variables. Just turn it on, and it's picking up that HDMI device straight away now without an issue. And we do have a display, but the question is, does it work in 1080p? That is the question. 1920 by 1080p. Brilliant. Fantastic. That means this is working. And as long as everything else is working, I can go to bed. Yes! Oh, happy days. What you know, display? Or not display, what you know, respond? I don't want to go into rest mode. I pressed back. Is my controller playing up? Well, that was weird. I've never had that happen. Alright, let me... Okay, well, it's working. This controller keeps turning off lately. That's strange. I think the battery might be dead actually. Let me just. Okay, we have a weird issue with this. So I'm gonna have to blur some stuff out here. Check this out. This is dead weird. Try to click onto new user here, and he just goes back to the sign-in screen. Okay, that is very weird. I have never had that. Okay, so see what I was on about earlier on with the PlayStation 4 thing. Alright, so that's in low res. We're going to go rebuild database. Right, let me. Oh, you know what? They've remapped the frigging buttons. Someone's remapped the buttons. They've put circle as X. Circle is working for X on this console. Why? I don't know. Not a clue. I've just sat there and wasted 10 minutes. B is working, or rather, I think I've mixed those two buttons up in the mappings. I didn't even know you could do that. Hey, yeah. Check this out. Yeah. Just to show you there's no magic tricks. Honestly, I've never come across it. Yeah. X is going back. And circle's going forward. What the hell? I didn't even know you could do this. Can you do it? Or is it a fault on my controller? I really get used to this now. It's on 9.03. Oh, yeah. Well, that's annoying. Is that a new feature or what? I've never seen that before. Is that a new feature in 9.03? Am I being trolled? What? Why would you ever do that? Why would you ever want the buttons mixed up? I don't know. Anyway. Well, I'm going to try and navigate, turn off, and we're done. We are done. So, just to summarise then. This was sent in because apparently it was only working in low resolution. I didn't verify that, but I did verify that it had no display. HDMI port was incredibly bent. Just by fixing the HDMI port, we get 1080p. So obviously half of the pins wasn't even soldered, which would have probably explained the low resolution mode, if at all that did exist. I don't know, but that would explain it. So by simply replacing the HDMI port, this is done. I know it's a bit of a boring job, but you know, it's still a job nonetheless, and this console can live on once again in holy matrimony. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you have any comments or questions, leave them down in the comment section down below. I'll always do my best to read and reply to them. Let me know if that's a new feature with the circle and X thing, because I've never come across it. So let me know if you've come across it in different versions. I'll have to have a look on different versions of the software. I've never seen it, and even if I have seen it, I've never paid attention, because who would really want that apart from complete weirdos? I'd say I can't really slag my customers off like that, but this is a business to business customer, so Oh well. If you do want to organise a repair, if you do want to get slagged off, then be sure to check out the link in the video description. You can organise your repair. You can get in touch if you've got a question about the repair that you want to book in. Yeah, check out the website and book in the repair. I promise I don't usually slag people off. That's just weird. That's just weird, and I'm definitely being trolled on that one. If you want to support me, if you enjoy this type of content and you find it useful, then you can support me by heading over to Patreon. You can become a Patreon supporter. You can become a channel member by clicking on the join button below the video. Or you can donate directly through the PayPal or Square checkout link in the video description. If you want to do that for free, if you don't want to donate anything, but you still want to support me, then head over to Twitch. If you've got Amazon Prime, you can link an Amazon Prime account to Twitch and become a Twitch Prime subscriber. It doesn't cost you anything, but it does give me $2.50 for every person that does it, and it really does help me out. So it allows me to buy new equipment and things to keep making these videos. And even just these things alone, I mean, these mics, £200, pretty expensive stuff. So yeah, if you do want to support me, then by all means, there's a few ways that you can do that. I do get asked that quite a lot. How can people support me? That's how. One thing that really does support me, getting subscribed and turning on bell notifications so that you don't miss any videos. And just by watching the videos alone, I really appreciate it. That really does support me because, like I said, it keeps me going. It pays the bills and it helps me to keep motivated to make more. So that's going to be for this video. Thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And until next time, I'll see you later. Bye for now. Circle for X and X for circle. Weirdos.